Okay, welcome to week 5 of Design 320. We're going to shift and start working on models in Revit. And Revit is a BIM, Building Information Modeling program. And so you can imagine it has mostly to do with architecture, interior design, civil engineering. The mechanical engineering package is called MEP, Mechanical Electrical Plumbing, and it's very strong also. What it is not is a gadget or manufacturing type of modeling system like you would find with Inventor. But there's wide applications for landscape, for interior design, for architecture, for civil engineering, for construction and construction management. And so I think it's very applicable to start working on that now. You'll see that for this week, the submittals are due on Sunday. Remember that Friday is a holiday for the college. There are no classes, no activities scheduled for Friday, and you will see that on my calendar that I'm not having appointments on Friday. And so let's take a look and see what we're going to have coming up here. We're talking about form. Now, really, when we do Revit, it's form, fit, and function. It ties them all together. You really can't get out of it. And so there's pre-recorded lectures and a lot of detailed topic videos for the activity guide. There's a drawing file with a bunch of views for you to do, and save the final version on your Google Drive. And there's a file for you to start with. It's called Arch Project Template, Architectural Project Template, and you can find it on your Google Drive. And you just download it, right? It's a Revit file, so you can't see anything. You have to download it and open it in Revit. And you have to have Revit 2022 to be able to open it. I think it might be one of the older versions. But if you can't find it there, or you're working in VMware, I've actually put a copy of it in the Instructor Files. You have your W number files. Here are the Instructor Files. And if you go there, you'll find me. Here I am, Schuster, Randy Schuster. If you open that up, you'll see that there's a folder for spring of 2022 and 320, and there it is right there. So you'll be able to open it, save it in your own file system, and be able to start working on it. And that's really the file that you're going to need to work with. Let's come back to that. There is a discussion to do. And it's about sharing models between software packages. So you can imagine if your program is talking in hieroglyphics, whatever it goes into has to be able to read that. So often you're given files from a client or from another entity that are in the wrong format for what you need to work in. And thankfully, many software packages can use each other's files. So we're going to take a look at that using SketchUp. Okay, so here's a SketchUp file that I imported into Revit. It is the SketchUp Arc de Triomphe that I made in week 2, I think it was. Either week 2 or week 3. I think it was week 2. And I imported it into Revit. So now it's in a Revit file for me to work with. So what would I like you to do? So that's just to show, you can bring this SketchUp stuff is actually super useful, especially when you start looking at these models, the products, that are from manufacturers, and you're working in Revit and you can't find a Revit model of it. You can often find a SketchUp file and bring it into Revit. So what are you going to do in this discussion? Do a web search for how to import into Revit. Okay, not necessarily SketchUp, just how to import into Revit. And then you should find information on a wide number of file formats that you can import using the import function into Revit. There's formats like SKP and DWG and OBJ and also DWF, DWXF, DXF, STEP, IGF. There's tons of different formats that can be imported into Revit. So then I want you to do some kind of digging around, find out what program creates that format. So choose one of the formats. Find out what program created that. And then find out what types of design work that program is used for. Who is it? For example, if it's a Maya file, it's probably with a character or sculpting animator. And why would you want that in Revit? Because there's some excellent rigged animated models that can go right into Revit so that you can do real 3D interactive presentations in Revit. Okay, but this is typical of what happens in the workplace, right? They say, okay, get that into Revit. And you're going to have to look it up, figure out how. But going past that, it's really good to figure out who's using this. And what might I be using this for? It's just going a little farther than the very basics. Okay? And then once you've found out who does it, think about some reasons why sharing models between software packages in general might be useful. I know we all love the software package that we work with the most and does exactly what we want to do. But in this great big collaborative design world that we live in, there may be reasons why you need to share models. So once you've done that sort of poking around and do some research and thinking things through, there's something for you to post. Post a short paragraph to summarize your findings. Okay, and it can be bullet pointed or you can just write a paragraph. But be sure to touch on all of these items. Okay, what I'm seeing a lot from all over the campus now, because I get to see work from all over, is that reading the specific directions, people choose one thing out of the directions to do, or don't really look deeply at it. And I know that it's stressful. There's a lot of people with time constraints, but when I see that you put 2 or 3 hours into the week and I see that the depth is really not very insightful, it will affect your grade, but more than everything, it will affect your ability to get work. And so we really want you to start generating the habits that will let you look deeply at things and flexibly. There's another big word in industry. They want people that are flexible. So in other words, I could give you bullet points, do exactly this, exactly this, exactly this, exactly this. And there's no boss in the world that's going to do that for you in the design world. So I'm giving you kind of a in-between one here. There's some bullet points of what to do, but go out and spend a little time thinking about them and figuring things out and looking around. This is particularly a hard one. Okay, what kind of design work is that program made for? Not always easy when you get that. Okay, so when you post it, make a short paragraph to summarize your findings. Okay, and explain. So these are the things that you found out about. You did a web search, you chose something, you found out, and then you thought about something. And about that thinking, explain in your own words why sharing models between whatever software you used up here and Revit might be useful. Okay, so that's the discussion. I really enjoy reading what you guys are doing. I'm learning a lot. I will say that from the last discussion, there were very few examples in all of the discussions about functional characteristics. And I'll explain that a little bit more. A function, which I didn't do, so shame on me, right? But when I see something that is in general missed, that means that I need to go back and explain it better. Okay? It can't be that everybody in the world didn't get it. It can be that I did not explain it well enough. So I'm going to do a little bit more explanation right here about the term functional characteristics. So functional characteristics are sort of characteristics that would let you know how something gets done. So if I had done this a little bit better, I would have said something like, how do people get to the top? And then I could find some functional characteristics of the Arc de Triomphe. And many of you kind of worked around that and talked all about stairs and elevators and tunnels underneath. But we didn't frame it with the functional part. Okay? And I didn't really explain that very well here. And I didn't give the greatest example. So what I might have said here was I looked for how people get to the top. Another good one would be, how do people even get onto this plaza? Another one might be, how do people wash this? How are certain things maintained? How are certain things protected? And then the answer to those should lead you to functional characteristics of the Arc de Triomphe. So there might be hooks up here that people can put their window washing scaffolds on to go up and down and clean these things. So that would be a functional characteristic, that there would be some mechanism to go up and down and clean this. That would be a functional characteristic. Okay, so maintenance things, characteristics of the Arc de Triomphe that tells something. Okay, you might look at, how is it lit at night? Well, the functional characteristics would be the lighting equipment and characteristics of it. So I kind of doubt these little things, these little gas lamps are there, or electric lamps are there to really light this up. I'll bet you that there's some cool lights embedded somewhere that help light this up. And you might look at those and the functional characteristics of those, right? That they go on at certain times, or they're on a timer, or they're on a light emitting diode, or a light receptor, or maybe they're on a motion detector, or maybe somebody just flips a switch somewhere. So that's what I mean by functional. How it works, how it gets that job done is the functional characteristic. Okay? And so I went a little bit sort of, what is the function of the elevator? What is it for? What function does that elevator have? And the elevator is to get disabled visitors to the top. And actually not quite to the top either. As many of you pointed out, it gets you into the chamber in this big middle area. And I think they still have to walk to get to the top. Some of you were pointing that out. Okay, so there's just a little bit more information for you. There were some comments that I made in your executive summaries. I'll go over those in the lab after I've had a chance to review all of the executive summaries and check them out, so you can look for further additions that point. So for now, let's go ahead and look at what the executive summary template looks like for this week. I think I've got it opened up here. Okay, and I want you to be cognizant. If you have images that are spilling over and blocking some of the words, it's not a visually appealing look in general. It can be done, but in general, you're going to find that it looks like you weren't paying enough attention. So please be sure to look at your layouts on these. If all of the images are gooped up over to the side and there's a big blank area, it makes the reader think that something was supposed to be there. So everything doesn't have to be perfect and symmetrical and exactly the same, but avoid big blank areas if you can. Okay, so here is our page 1. It's week 5. It's build models in Revit. You'll see that Friday is a holiday, so we're not going to expect you to do any work there. Take your opportunity to celebrate the holiday as you wish. Okay, so this is pretty standard. You guys are mostly doing a pretty good job with this. Remember to keep a little bit of bleed around the areas. And another thing to look at is be reasonable with your hours on here. You know, if you schedule yourself 3 hours for something that's going to take, the expectation is 6 to 12 hours, I'm really going to look to see if you've got the depth in there. Maybe you're blazing fast. Maybe you did not really spend the full amount of time that is expected to get the most out of the class. And you can get a pretty good grade. It won't really be a problem, but your depth portion of the scope on your submittal might get a little bit of a hit on the grade. So look at those hours and make sure that they're reasonable, at least your scheduled hours, to see what you're doing there. So then we've got really 3 slides. Activity 1 is to access and explain a Revit file. This is very important. Really look over that work. And that work is given to you in the topic guides. Okay, there's a long playlist. And if you look here, I'm giving you 1, 2, 3 of these things. You know, look at it, find out the different spots in it, the project browser. Look those things up. Look them up on the web and find out about them. Do more than just listen to my little videos if you can. Go onto some Revit sites and look those up and find out about them. And then this one, I've given you a brief explanation. I've talked about levels and I've talked about phases. Levels are where things are in the model, and phases are when things are in the model. But if you look those up in more detail, you'll have a much better explanation. And so your explanation here should link your images together with your explanation in text about how Revit is organized. And I'll be really looking to see that this is really, really done in depth. So not tons. You don't have to fill this up with, you know, size 8 font letters all the way around. But I'm going to look for a good explanation because this is the essence of Revit. Once you've got that explanation down, Revit becomes much, much easier for you. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to build a model. That's going to take you a little while. I think in mine it takes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes. I can actually, because I've done this one so often, do it in about 6 or 7 minutes. But take your time and figure out how to use it and go through each one of these and try to figure out what's going on and show individual steps that get done. Right? Show that you've placed walls, that you've placed windows and doors, and that you've created a floor and a roof, and where you do them and what your ribbons might look like, and annotate it so that somebody can see that you really understand that modeling process in Revit. And tell you the truth, it's pretty straightforward. Once you get it, it's very well organized. And it's organized under a construction theme. In other words, you can't put windows in until you've got walls. So let's put up the walls first. You can't put in doors until you have walls. And you can't put a roof on until you have walls. So it kind of goes in a particular order because that's how things are built. Okay, so that's your next slide. Okay, and again, I'm making it very clear. Place some images of these various things, and then add annotations to describe your modeling process. What levels were you on? What did you have to click? What do you have to do first and second and third? So that's your activity 2, and then activity 3, I've shown you how to put a few types of annotations on. Okay, and they go in different. They happen differently depending on what you're annotating, and I've described that on these. Okay, so you can watch these and go through them one at a time. These are the various goals. You can even put your goals. You can just paste that right into there if you want to, because it lets somebody know what was going on. You can just take these right here and put them in your thing here. So that's what the template looks like. It's very quick and easy looking, but it'll take a little while, especially if you're not used to it. Now, some of you may have already done this before in Design 300 if you took it from me, or Design 301 if you took it from me. So it could be that you could get this done fairly quickly. But if it is, go into more depth, please. Look at different walls. How are the walls structured? What do they do? What happens if I do exterior placement of a wall, core placement, interior placement? If it's very easy, this is your chance to do some more work in your own investigation of interest. Okay? And we do like to do it over and over and over again because that really gets the lesson sunk in a way that you're familiar with. I like to do that. If this is your first time, you can get with somebody else who's maybe done it. First time, it usually takes maybe an hour or 2 to get it done, but then you have to look around and figure things out. Now, one of the things that I noticed in general, a few people are doing it, but many people aren't. Read this entire thing. Okay, so read it. Most of you are getting this because I called attention to it, that this has to be a complete sentence. So now, and some of you are turning parts of this green to show that you've done it, but this is a rubric. I do the grading. You don't get to. So this says complete the certification. That's this. And that's this. And turn the box green. So after you've typed in your name, the instructions say to turn it green. And that's what so you'll type your name in here and then turn it green. And to do that, you click on it and go up to this paint bucket and turn it green. I don't care which one of these greens you do. That's a little hard to read. This is green. Okay, and this is just detail work. But you don't always know the reason for details. Sometimes you just do them, but I'm going to let you know this one. This gives me a very quick visualization that says if this is green, I know that this is a true representation. I don't have to read the whole thing. Okay, so you turn it green. And then very quickly, bingo, I've got it. And then I do go down and look at these and try to respond if I see something that's worth looking at. So I'm going to turn that back now. So there's your submittal template. Here's your assignment. You're going to learn how to navigate a Revit project. Create a simple residential building shell. Okay. According to some existing design guidelines, it shows you how to do that and add some dimensional views. So BIM is Building Information Model. And so our model has other stuff in it besides, like in SketchUp, your model is a pretty example of what you're doing. Now in Revit, it gets far more detailed, but they give you the tools to do it. I think you're going to be impressed. So there we go. That's what's up for this week. Okay, we've got a playlist with many, many, many short videos in it. We've got the assignment guide. We've got your submittal template. And we've got your Canvas sites to link to. And remember, Friday is a holiday, so I will not be available on Friday for you. So there we go. Good luck for this week. Remember, check things out early so that you can either be in lab or put your questions into lab, right? Get onto those notes or email me if you have specific questions. Have at it.